Hi, I'm Izzy Galanti, co-founder and CXO of Mosaic Instructional Planning. And for this tab, I'll be your guide on the side. Well, most likely the most overused and misunderstood word in the lexicon of today's teacher is the word rigor. Most of the time, rigor is misunderstood as questions or questioning or even difficulty. But for something that's so important, it's hard to believe that 21st century teachers have had to chase after this multi-use concept for years without the aid of a fully formed definition of the term. Why is this term so critical? Well, research shows that the rigor of the curriculum is the most significant predictor of academic success, post-secondary education completion, and transferable career skills. But this might leave us with more questions than answers. If it's the rigor of the curriculum, what am I supposed to do? I have to ask myself some critical questions. Are our lessons aligned to the content rigor? How do I even know? What does an aligned lesson look like on paper or in my classroom? How is content rigor then connected to student engagement? To define rigor, we get as many different answers as we ask teachers or even administrators. What does the research say? Robert Marzano, in his book Understanding Rigor in the Classroom, says that it's the idea of discerning new relationships between topics and new distinctions within topics. This may be a little too broad. So we asked some teachers what they thought, and trying to narrow down the definition to something we can actually use.
Rigor. It's a good question.
Basically, the kids are getting pushed, but every child has the opportunity to come into it at some point on their own level.
Challenge. The higher the expectation for children, the more likely they are to achieve it. Like if the kids know that there's high expectations for them.
Whatever you're working on, you look at the standard, and the standard helps you determine what the actual goal and rigor is.
Giving the students different ways of actually answering things.
I think a lot of people have the misconception of it being hard, but I think hard and challenging is something different.
I think we always miss the mark because we say that the activity is the rigor, and it's not really. It's about, in my opinion, it's about what the standard says is supposed to happen, and then how you translate that in different ways.
Here's what our research has shown. Rigor is increased only as a result of teacher planning choices. Choices that create the conditions for student independence. These instructional choices can be enhanced by teacher questioning, but simply questioning students will not increase the rigor. Many times we have observed teachers' attempts to deepen understanding and raise complexity by repeated questioning. But most of the time this is a student-led, one-sided, low-impact experience. Remember, rigor is not about what we say to students, it's about what they learn by doing. Let's look back in on researcher Robert Marzano and get his take on what he calls the myth of higher order questioning. Now remember our definition. Rigorous tasks cause learners to develop their own meaning, explore multiple solution or opinion pathways, and apply their understanding to new and varied situations. Ask yourself the question, are my lessons rigorous? Do the entry activities I provide help my students make and internalize their own meaning of the content? Or am I just asking students to copy vocabulary definitions without creating mental pictures or non-examples? Are my mini-lesson activities I-do experiences like teacher demonstration or direct instruction, show and tell moments where there's no student voice or choice? Do I intentionally plan for students to work collaboratively with purpose to explore multiple solution options? Am I presenting a variety of different ways that students will be asked to apply their new understanding? And this includes standardized assessment, maybe real-world context, and performance tasks. But now comes the how. How do you move the components of rigorous tasks off of the lesson plan and into action? First thing to consider is this. Each of the lesson components can either support the next phase or include all aspects of a rigorous experience. For example, the entry into content on any given day can include meaning development, exploration, and application, and this could repeat itself throughout each of the 5E components. Or, the entry itself can provide the meaning. A separate but connected exploration can offer collaborative experiences to deepen or develop that meaning, and examples for and of learning can provide the evidence of understanding, actionable feedback, and revision. What does this look like in the classroom? Well, this is the subtle distinction between rigor and engagement, and the critical aspect of differentiated lesson planning. It's the nuance between the experience that the teacher plans for and what the students actually have to do in order to demonstrate understanding. So the critical question becomes, how is rigor connected to student engagement? Well, rigor can be considered the what level of thinking is required for students to answer complex tasks or assessment questions, where engagement is the how of that process. What will students be doing to internalize meaning, persist through struggles, and make real-world connections? Charlotte Danielson says it like this. Rigorous lessons are engaging lessons. Remember the what and the how. With rigor, we define this as the what. Students need to make meaning, explore multiple pathways, and apply their new understanding. With the idea of student engagement, we're looking at how. In other words, strategies that are intentionally planned to help students personalize meaning, using collaborative experiences to build persistence, and making culturally responsive connections as a starting place for applying understanding. Both rigor and engagement work in tandem to achieve the ultimate goal: student independence over the process and successful completion of complex tasks. This is what differentiated lesson planning through the 5Es is all about. The process of creating independence with complex material.